What's going on, y'all? Attorney Tom here. Happy Memorial Day. And for Memorial Day, I thought I would make a video discussing the structures and levels of the military court system, i.e. the different types of court-martial.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
But before we begin, I just want to say thank you to all of our military members, past and present. Your service to our country is greatly appreciated. And on top of that, I want to make a special shout out to Professor Jeffrey Korn, who is a retired colonel. He literally wrote the book on national security law. I was lucky enough to have him as a professor in law school. I think I took 4 or 5 of his classes. This is the only reason why I have any knowledge in this area of law. So thank you, Professor Korn. Let's get started. So the first thing we need to understand about the military justice system is that it does not work like the civilian justice system. All military members are subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ. And maybe at this point you're thinking, Tom, that doesn't sound constitutional. Maybe there's some violation of due process in that, or perhaps a 4th, 5th, or 6th Amendment violation. And unfortunately, you would be wrong. The Constitution grants Congress the authority to make rules for the government of the land and naval forces. The military is the government. And Congress is the one who has passed the UCMJ. Therefore, the UCMJ is constitutional. And while it is technically possible for civilians to be subject to the UCMJ, it is very, very rare. I mean, extremely rare. I mean, the courts in the 1950s found that a lady who murdered her husband, who was a member of the Air Force, was not subject to the UCMJ. So even though it's technically possible, 99.9999999% of the time, unless you are a service member, you will not be subject to the UCMJ. Now, if you are a service member, the UCMJ applies pretty much anywhere you go. So let me be clear. Soldiers can be tried for offenses committed under the UCMJ, whether or not that underlying action was illegal in the jurisdiction in which they resided. Yes, so a soldier can potentially be tried and convicted for a UCMJ violation if they did something that was not illegal where they were located, but illegal under the UCMJ. Now that we understand that, let's understand the court-martial process. Unlike normal courts that are standing, they're always there. Court-martials are convened for only that particular instance, meaning there is not a standing court. There is not a court that exists at all times to handle these matters. Court-martials are convened. The court is literally created just for that specific instance. With that said, there are 3 main types of court-martials: a summary court-martial, a special court-martial, and a general court-martial. And the only thing that distinguishes between these 3 types of court-martials are 1, who can convene the court-martial, and 2, the maximum amount of punishment allowed. Hold up, y'all, this is future Tom. I'm editing this video. Quick note, the plural of court-martial is courts-martial. I said it wrong multiple times. Editing this video, the hair rose up because I know y'all are just waiting to roast me in the comment section. I apologize. Courts-martial is the plural of court-martial. Back to the video. With respect to being able to convene a court-martial, a summary court-martial can be convened by a battalion or higher level commander. A special court-martial can be convened by a brigade or equivalent level commander. And a general court-martial can be convened by a division or wing equivalent commander. But it is important to note that not every commander in these positions has the authority to convene a court-martial. Oftentimes the military will enumerate or specify which individual commander at that particular level has the authority to convene said court-martial. Okay, now that we know who can convene a court-martial, let's go through each court-martial. Starting with a summary court-martial. A conviction on a summary court-martial case is generally not considered a federal conviction. That's because a summary court-martial generally does not have a judge in the traditional sense. There is no jury. There is no defense counsel. Oh no, my lights. Beep. Conviction in a summary court-martial may not discharge anyone. The maximum penalty for being convicted under a summary court-martial is loss of 2/3 of pay for 1 month. The maximum confinement that can be adjudicated is 30 days, but only soldiers E4 and below can be sentenced to confinement. Next, the special court-martial. The special court-martial is essentially the military's version of the misdemeanor court. Under a special court-martial, individuals can be required to forfeit 2/3 of their pay for up to 12 months and can be sentenced to up to 12 months of confinement. Further, in a special court-martial, an enlisted soldier can potentially be reduced to the lowest enlisted grade, but this is different for officers. In a special court-martial, an officer may not be reduced in grade, nor will an officer be discharged. But all other punishments do apply to officers in a special court-martial. Finally, we're at a general court-martial. A general court-martial is the felony level court. All soldiers subject to a general court-martial can receive the maximum penalty allowed for under the UCMJ. What's going on, y'all? Future Tom here again. A couple things that I missed when describing a general court-martial the first time. Because a general court-martial is essentially the felony level court in the military justice system, members or individuals who are being tried in a general court-martial can request to be either tried by the judge, a bench trial, or by a panel of service members. These members are essentially jurors, and there is a minimum of 5 members who need to sit on the panel. Additionally, if the service member who's being tried is an enlisted service member, that person can require that at least 1/3 of the members of the panel are enlisted service members as well. In order to convict in a general court-martial, there needs to be a 2/3 vote of guilt and a 2/3 vote on conviction. However, if the punishment is confinement by more than 10 years, that goes from 2/3 to 3/4. And on top of all that, there are additional rules if the case is a capital case, in which there needs to be at least a 12-person panel and a whole bunch of unanimous votes, which I'm not going to get into. But for the most part, 5-person panel. If the service member is enlisted, they have a right to have at least 1/3 of the panel comprised of enlisted people. Most maximum penalties include a complete forfeiture of pay and a reduction to the lowest enlisted grade. Enlisted soldiers can receive 2 types of punitive discharges if they're convicted of a general court-martial. Either a bad conduct discharge or a dishonorable discharge. Although it is important to note that a court is not necessarily required to discharge somebody at the conviction of a court-martial. They will take in a totality of the offense. For an officer, the only punitive discharge is a dismissal. And like I said before, soldiers can receive a maximum of total forfeiture of pay and allowances. Not to mention indefinite confinement, depending on how bad the infraction actually was. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Short, sweet, to the point. This was Military Justice 101, the different types of court-martial. We could be here all day talking about very interesting or different nuanced things in the military justice system. I actually think it's very fascinating, which is why I probably took 4 or 5 classes in law school just about national security law and military justice. I really like this subject. Alright, y'all. I hope you found this interesting. Make sure you hit that like button, leave any questions, comments, concerns down below. If you're interested in joining this channel, consider subscribing. We're growing like crazy. I think we just passed 315,000 subscribers. All right, y'all, thanks again for everything. Thanks to all the service members who have served our country. See y'all soon. Bye.